Middle Podcast, the podcast dedicated to the music, movies, and culture of Generation X.
What is up, slackers, and welcome to another episode of the Stuck in the Middle podcast, and I am your host, Jason Eck. So a couple of things from this past week that I'll just say to everyone. Hopefully, if you celebrate Easter, you had a wonderful, happy, blessed, joyful Easter, whether that means going out, as we did. We went out to brunch with some friends and some family, whether that means you're hosting people at your house, and maybe it just means you're chilling and not doing anything, watching a movie marathon, whatever it is. Hopefully you had a great time. And then the other thing I'd just like to mention is I sometimes forget until it happens, and I find myself in this situation. And I recognize part of the reason I probably have shied away from doing as much social media as I probably should for promotion of the podcast. I'd forgotten what a toxic place Twitter is. So I'm not even going to get into what the meat of it is. I have some interests that I've mentioned here on the show before, whether it's music or movies, but I also love pro wrestling, and pro wrestling has one of the most toxic fan bases in the world. I shouldn't have even indulged or engaged. And I immediately went, nope. I started to go down the road, and then I just said, nope, not engaging, not going to engage, because whether it is, well, actually, you know what? It's interesting. I look at it as a parallel. Almost everything, particularly social media wise. Let's take, so wrestling has a couple of major companies. You have people who love one company over the other. And this is analogous to sports teams. I am a Boston-based guy, which means automatically I hate all things New York, right? Now, I had a grandfather who was all New York. I had another grandfather who was all Boston, because we're in Connecticut, and it really just went one of two ways. You get the occasional oddities, people who end up being into, for lack of a better term, national teams like the Dallas Cowboys or the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then on, Chicago Bulls fans, right? Easy to do, right? Connecticut didn't have its own basketball team. So a lot of times people were Celtics fans, or they would also be potentially Knicks fans or even Nets fans, but I knew very few Nets fans. But then it also extends into like politics, right? And it becomes so polarizing and tribalistic, and it devolves into negativity so quickly and so easily. Like if we were to talk about music, try to think of an example. Try to think of a good example. If I said I am not a huge, I don't know, try to pick some band. I'm trying to be completely innocuous here. If I say that I don't really enjoy, let's say, Taylor Swift, and I said on Twitter, I don't really enjoy Taylor Swift, you could get comments like, oh, you hate country. Never said that. Oh, you hate pop. Oh, you hate female pop singers. It's like, I didn't say anything. I just said I don't particularly care for Taylor Swift music. And think about how people read into it. Same thing with politics. If I say I'm for X, whatever the topic is, oh, well, that means you're against this, this, and this. Potentially, but not necessarily. Or I'm for this, or I'm against this. Oh, well, this means you hate. Doesn't matter what it is. It's amazing to me. Some of the other areas of interest that I have, like I can't even deal with like Star Wars anymore. I've done episodes of the podcast on Star Wars. I think all of us, not all of us, many of us in Gen X, we grew up with Star Wars. It is kind of our franchise, along with, Indiana Jones, things like that. I can't even engage with that. It's completely unenjoyable. And that's really too bad. I mean, it really is. I often think of, actually, and people will talk about the comic guy from The Simpsons, right? Like the comic book guy. I was very fortunate. I had a really cool comics guy in my hometown. Sam, the comic guy. Super cool. Never really came off as, judgmental or whatever to me. But again, I was a kid. You know what I mean? Maybe he was like that to other adult collectors, and maybe it got into some of that tribalistic bullshit. I don't know. I never really knew if Sam was a DC or a Marvel guy, or maybe like, actually, I prefer the independent comics. Okay, not everything is for or against. Life is never that black and white, but I was reminded once again, my gosh, Twitter is a cesspool. And then it gets even worse when you can say, oh, I'm a big fan of musician, whoever, pick one. And someone will get into, well, do you know what they believe in and all that stuff? Well, maybe that would be a turnoff. Maybe it would be completely, won't make any difference whatsoever. I just can't believe how people get so wrapped up into this stuff. I think the most prime example is Michael Jackson. And there's a comedian, I'm forgetting which comedian did this. He goes, if Michael Jackson's music wasn't so good, people would not be like so forgiving just based upon allegations and lifestyle and all those kind of things, right? If you make a good enough product, all of a sudden people overlook your potential foibles. Such is life. But anyway, happy to say I'm still working out, still after it. So I am 4 weeks in. Haven't really moved much on the weight front, but it's getting there. So I just want to give an update there. I went to edit a lot of this video content this weekend, and my computer and my video archives, complete mess. So I've had to put that off a little bit because it's going to be a busy week for me. So that's why I decided this would be, and I've said it before, a back to basics kind of episode. And what I mean by that is, I've done episodes from the very beginning where we focus on a time period, or more specifically, a year. So if you saw the show notes, you saw the title of the episode before you clicked play, that's right, we're going to look at 1987. Now, I've already done an episode where I looked at blockbusters for a period of time, so we're not going to go into movies in this particular episode. What we're going to focus on is Billboard's Hot 100, and I'm going to cherry pick some of the things that I want to talk about from the list, and just some curiosities, and certainly some things that I don't remember, and songs that I couldn't for the life of me, access in my memory banks. And we're also going to look at the top TV shows. So again, 1987 is not one that I really talked about. In part, I tend to be a odds and evens kind of weirdo, where most of the stuff that I've done have been positive numbers, even numbers, I should say. So I did do 1981, which is an odd number, but it's 88, 86, 84, all of those things. And I think part of it is because I was born in 74. I kind of look at it in those kind of multiples, and okay, 10 years from 1974 is 84, right? 94. So it just kind of flows for me. So I'm like, you know what? Let's do 1987. And I started to take a glance and I said, interesting, because we've talked about the whole grunge thing that happens in the 90s. But we're also in that era where the hair bands were a big thing, but there would sometimes be off years as far as some of the larger acts and their releases. 86 was a huge year, but I think you'll find it interesting as we go through the list. So let's start. And as I like to do, I like to start at the bottom and work my way up, and I don't know this song at all. So at number 100, we have Love You Down by Ready for the World. Ready for the World is an American R&B band from Flint, Michigan. They scored several pop, soul, and dance hits in the mid to late 1980s. Oh, okay. They did Oh Sheila. Oh Sheila. I know that one. Interesting. Okay, I never would have placed it. But this song, Love You Down, is actually from their second album, which is called Long Time Coming. I do not remember the song Love You Down, though, which was number 1 in the U.S. R&B, but also was number 100 on the year-end Hot 100. Next, we have a cover of Funky Town by new wave band Pseudo Echo in rock form, including a guitar solo middle. I don't remember this particular release either, but the first one that I do know is at number 98, You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party by, of course, the Beastie Boys. This song was everywhere. I know for absolute certain if you were a teenage boy at this time, this was the thing. I was, let's see, what was I in 87? I was 13. Yeah, this was a big deal. This was an absolute big deal. That whole record was a big deal. Beastie Boys breaking onto the scene. And as they will tell you themselves, very juvenile, not in their eyes the best showing for what they would later become. It was certainly misogynistic, a lot of bravado, but it was also mixing this, rap sensibilities with their rock background because they started out as a punk rock band. In 97, the group Cutting Crew, I mean, they're known for what? Died in Your Arms Tonight? I don't remember I've been in love before. Love Lionel Richie, I don't remember Ballerina Girl at number 95. Hey, Huey Lewis at number 93 with Doing It All for My Baby. I think I mentioned before, I find Huey Lewis in the News to be somewhat underrated. You can say, well, how could they be? Major player in the 80s, in particular, platinum records, hit singles, but Huey Lewis, voice of a raspy angel, and can't beat it. And then we have, at number 89, Bruce Willis with Respect Yourself, his cover of the, that was the Staple Singers, Respect Yourself. Yes. Interesting cover, but that was his, was that his biggest hit? I don't know. Let's see. Bruce Willis. It was pretty charted in 4 different countries. That reached number 5. So on the regular chart, it was number 5. It was a top 5 single. And then for the year-end chart, it was number 89. But holy cow. But I mean, Bruce Willis at that time was amazing. What I mean by amazing is, he's got moonlighting. I mean, he's starting at that point to have the movie career. I mean, this was the start of him trying to be a master of all different genres and different artistic endeavors. We have Heart here with Who'll You Run To. I know the song, but probably not one of the ones that I would say is amongst my favorite. Let's see. We're going to jump up here to number 83. Crowded House. Okay, so if you want to talk about a band that's legitimately underrated, I think you have to go with Crowded House. Neil Finn, his brother Tim. Let's see, Paul Hester on drums, Nick Seymour on bass. If you take a band that is, I don't know, a little bit new wave, but also firmly, I think, planted in the Beatles kind of sensibility. But here they are with something so strong. Such a great, all their stuff is really good. So what was the name of that record? That's from the album Crowded House. And no surprise, it was one of many hits off of that record. But yeah, Something So Strong, Crowded House, gotta love it. You have solo Lou Gramm at this point with Midnight Blue. It's a good song. I mean, it certainly seems as though it is, it's Foreigner without the rest of the band. It's definitely a Lou Gramm doing his best Foreigner. It's good, not great. So I remember that Fleetwood Mac had an album out at this time, and there's a couple of times they're on the charts because they've just always had hits. Big Love was not one of the ones that I would put towards the top of my list, but there is one later on that I just simply love. Expose is on here a number of times, and here they are at number 80 with Point of No Return. To the point of no return. I think that's the one. Yeah, the Expose is here again at number 77 with Let Me Be the One. We have Peter Gabriel. Okay, so this is where I think the chart is so interesting because, okay, let's go back one. We have at number 76, The Finer Things by Steve Winwood. Now, obviously, Steve Winwood's career, what started in the 60s, right? So, Finer Things, it's okay. But it goes Steve Winwood, then Peter Gabriel, who, let's see, when was Genesis formed? 65, 66, probably somewhere around there. So he's on here with Big Time. That whole record was what? So? I think that's off So. Yeah, that's off So. Monster record. And then it's followed by Bon Jovi at number 74 with Wanted Dead or Alive. I know there's something so interesting about those artists at that time. Because look at it. You have Lou Gramm, Fleetwood Mac, Steve Winwood, Peter Gabriel, Hart, Bon Jovi. I mean, you still have these artists who were big in the 60s and 70s who are still producing music. And it's just so... Can you think of any other... Like the hair bands, which I talk about loving, that had such a drop off, such a disappearance from the charts when so many bands that started out just being the kind of the precursors to those bands. You think about Heart in the 70s versus Heart in the 80s. I mean, one was just what we have come to call classic rock, just straight ahead heavy rock, and very much glam in the 80s and working in that direction. But what a mixture of things around this time. We have number 72, Rhythm Is Gonna Get Ya by Gloria Estefan, Miami Sound Machine. I think I've mentioned before that I have a certain place in my heart for Miami Sound Machine and Gloria Estefan in particular. Yeah. One of the first records I purchased with my own money was Gloria Estefan and Miami Sound Machine. We have ABC. So if you remember the band ABC, and I do, this is when Smokey sings. I don't remember this song as much, but I'm sure as soon as I would play it, I would hear it. My mom loved this band, and ABC has some wild videos. And I had posted something on another kind of group that I was on Facebook at one time. People were like, what is this fever dream of a music video? And what song was it for? Look of Love. Holy cow. I mean, I can't help it. I still kind of like them when I hear them, but I can't imagine sitting down and listening to an ABC record, and my mom would put it on vinyl and listen to the whole thing. A band that I think is well known for another song, which I'm not sure what year. I'm trying to see if it's on here, but I don't see it. But I didn't, I guess, even realize they had another major hit, and that's Glass Tiger with Someday. Don't remember it, but of course most people remember Don't Forget Me When I'm Gone. You have Genesis at number 68 with Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. Of course, this is firmly in the Phil Collins major juggernaut Genesis is a beast time period. But again, I mentioned the kind of interesting mix. So we go Genesis into Benny King, Stand By Me, which I believe was a big hit because of the soundtrack for the movie of the same name, Stephen King adaptation. You then have Swing Out Sister next with Breakout. I'm not going to sing it, but you know the song. Dun, 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 The dun, 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 dun. You know the one. At number 66, Bruce Hornsby in the Range at number 65 with Mandolin Rain, right into Billy Idol, To Be a Lover. I don't know. I just don't feel as though the streaming thing and music genres, like if you have Sirius XM, for example, you're usually listening to a genre-based channel. Now, you might just do a 80s or 90s channel and get like a nice mix, but all of these things would have been played organically on any major radio station. And I don't know, that's gone. It really is gone. And I know that my kids don't listen to really radio. They do in the car, like usually with my wife more than with me. And plus now they always have these AirPods stuck in their heads. But like, how are they discovering new music other than they know specific artists and then it hits all the social media and they go, oh, Kanye's got a new record. Oh, Taylor Swift has a new record, whatever it is. But how cool is it that you could get, and here's the latest single by Billy Idol, To Be a Lover. And then the next thing you know, it's, and here's Swing Out Sister with their big hit Breakout. What a cool thing. And I think it's something that's certainly lost. It's lost in streaming. But who knows? Maybe there's some some radio stations out there that are still running and doing this, I don't know, multi-format kind of thing, but I just feel like it's gone and it's a bummer. Expose is on here again with Come Go With Me. Don't remember that one, but that's charted higher. Let's see. We have Prince with Sign of the Times at 60, followed by Michael Jackson at 59 with Bad, and Madonna at number 58 with La Isla Bonita. Prince, so it goes, actually, Cyndi Lauper at 61. Cyndi Lauper, Prince, Michael Jackson, Madonna. Boom, boom, boom. Just at this point, they're all mid-career. They are absolutely already superstars. They could sing the phone book and people were going to buy it in droves. Let's see. You have Europe with their ballad Carrie. I had the Europe record on vinyl. I think I listened to 2 songs. I never really got into them. You know, buddy of mine that, you know, I was playing in bands with, Don, who's been on the show before. I remember him saying that John Norm was like an excellent guitar player. Just not a band I super gravitated to. This is the days of Kenny G. So it goes Europe, Carrie into Kenny G's Songbird. I mean, anyone I knew whose parents even had a slight proclivity for things that had been jazz or whatever, ended up with the Kenny G, even though he was not considered by serious, you know, jazz people. He's this light radio jazz. No one could deny his ability to play. Absolutely, he could play. And the ability to hold notes just from like obscenely long time. I remember my stepdad, he's like, that's not what I would consider to be jazz, but as someone who enjoys saxophone music, he's pretty unbeatable. We have Bananarama with I Heard a Rumor. Bananarama had a number of hits. And then here's what's one of those things that's just a bizarre memory of space and time and just remembering being at a friend's house and hearing the next song for the first time, which was Suzanne Vega with Luca, which is the most melancholy, terrible song. I mean, it is a song about child abuse that had major radio play. I remember getting in the car, like headed to school with like my mom or whatever. They'd be playing it in the morning. They'd be playing it afternoon. Not an upbeat song, but it also was one that I think had raised a lot of attention. Followed by one of my favorite Fleetwood Mac songs. And I know it's from a strange era, but Little Lies. Just think it's a great song and it's a Christine McVie song. You know, I've mentioned before, I'm a Christine McVie, Lindsey Buckingham guy, and this falls squarely in that time period of Christine McVie having a number of hit singles. Really enjoyed that. Huey Lewis again with Hip to Be Square. Certainly he is hitting the nail on the head. What a corny, nerdy thing to say, but still, it's hip to be square. Gotta love it. Genesis Into Deep. I don't even remember this song by Madonna, Causing a Commotion. Don't remember it at all. But then here's a one-hit wonder who was, shall we say, very popular with young men because of certain things that she certainly used purposely. I mean, let's not pretend that it wasn't a marketing tool. But that is Samantha Fox. Remember Samantha Fox with the song "Touch Me, I Want Your Body." As she's listed here, she is a Gen Xer, my friends. Born April 15th, 1966, English pop singer and former glamour model from Crouch End in North London. She became one of the most photographed British women of the 1980s and a prominent sex symbol of the era. Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the funniest things is someone posted a picture. This is obviously a reprint from like People magazine from like 1980, whatever, but it was Michael J. Fox and Samantha Fox. Let's see. Genesis, Land of Confusion. That, I think, became a hit very much in part because of the music video, which, of course, is puppetry. Some very interesting puppetry. I'm trying to remember the name of the actual caricature. So the video features caricature puppets by the British television show Spitting Image, after Phil saw a caricatured version of himself on the show. So they had been commissioned. So the video opens with a caricatured Ronald Reagan, Nancy Reagan, and a monkey, a reference to Bedtime for Bonzo, with which Reagan had starred. And he wakes up in a sweat, and it's like an absolute puddle in the bed. It was just so odd, but it was visually very, very cool. Then you have Linda Ronstadt and James Ingram with a hit single from one of the oddest places that you can imagine. And it is a non-Disney animated film. We're talking about An American Tail and the song Somewhere Out There. Now, of course, in the movie itself, it is sung by Fievel and his mother or father. I forget exactly. It's been a million years since I've seen that movie. But of course, here it is sung by Linda Ronstadt and James Ingram. Followed by one of the best songs off of the Sign of the Times record, You Got the Look by Prince, along with Sheena Easton. Also a music video that got a lot of attention, in part because of Sheena Easton. Very, very cool song. That whole album was a slow burn for me, not one that I fully embraced at the time. Definitely, as years went on, it became a favorite. So check this out. So I mentioned before, so Genesis is from the 60s, Linda Ronstadt, 60s and 70s. You have Prince, followed by Janet Jackson with her hit song, Control. I mean, that was massive. I mean, what was the name of that record? Was it the Control record? Yeah, Control, which came out in 1986. Here's 87, still producing singles. And that was followed, of course, her next record was Rhythm Nation 1814, which came out in 1989. At this point, man, she's not Baby. She's Janet, Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. I mean, awesome. But then right after that, you have Aretha Franklin and George Michael, two of the greatest singers ever, with I Knew You Were Waiting for Me. Falling into the one-hit wonder, we have the Georgia Satellites. We don't give it no allowance and keep your hands to yourself. Also a song that was absolutely everywhere. Every format, rock station, pop station, it was huge. Not one that you hear on the radio very often. Let's see. We have Kim Wilde with her cover of You Keep Me Hanging On, which is, of course, originally by the Supremes. Followed by, so in this next section, you have kind of, Kim Wilde, let's see, she started in Yeah, I mean, this was her peak time. She was born in 1960. Her first single was in 83 in the UK. But following that, you have T'Pow. That's right, T'Pow. English pop group formed in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, led by singer Carol Decker. And of course, we have Heart and Soul. That is still played on the radio whenever I do hear, just only because if a song like that comes up and my kid's like, oh, I know that one, it means it's still played on the radio. And they'll even make a point of, oh, you're listening to the radio and they play this, they don't play that. Yeah, they know. And in their opinion, if it's not ever played on the radio, it's not good or it wasn't a hit. So, yeah. Then we have Cutting Crew, as I mentioned, and here they are with number 32 with I Just Died in Your Arms. And that was one of the most parodied songs I think I've ever heard, particularly when you're like 13 and it's like, I just died in your arms, must have been something I ate. You know, that's not how the song goes, but when you're 13, that's freaking hysterical. Lisa and the Cult Jam with Lost in Emotion, followed by Madonna's Open Your Heart, a video that would not be made today for many, many reasons. And if you don't know what I mean, you can go ahead and get yourself a refresher on that. I have mentioned that I am not a huge fan of Peter Cetera. His voice gives me the kind of, here he is with Amy Grant and the huge hit, Next Time I Fall in Love. Did that go number 1? I feel like it did, but U.S. Billboard Hot 100, number 1, as well as U.S. Adult Contemporary, number 1, went number 1 in Canada's Adult Contemporary, as well as Canada's Pop. So this was definitely the Amy Grant pop era, where it wasn't necessarily all about the Christian music. Huge hit. Huge hit. And then talk about singer-songwriters who then perform their own song. So this is from a soundtrack. And this one definitely is still a big, it's a big hit at weddings. Let's put it that way. Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes with I've Had the Time of My Life from the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. I mean, it's still a thing, and people love that soundtrack. We have Duran Duran at number 25 with Notorious. I think that was their last big hit for a while, if I remember correctly. Let's see. It was a massive commercial success. I'd have to go back and look. I feel like this was, 87. I feel like they must have dropped off 87, 88, and then didn't really hit again until Ordinary World, which is like 91, 92, something like that. I definitely think this was right at their final kind of apex at that point. But then you have another guy who is just starting his ascent as a solo artist. And this is George Michael with I Want Your Sex. Also another music video that got an awful lot of attention and was quite wonderful for 13-year-old me. But it was definitely a song. I remember one time it was being played because it was on the radio. I was in line with my mom at like Kmart or something, and this came on. She's like, this is not like, it's pretty blatant. And she was not one for much censorship, let's put it that way. She was like, I don't know how this song's on the radio. Because, yeah, it is a risque tune. Followed by number 23, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. U2, a song that at the time I kind of dismissed. Was not into U2. They weren't heavy rock, and they weren't some of the pop stuff that I still liked. They were, to me, I looked at them and said, who are these Irish hippies? And I felt like even then there was something preachy to it. And then I went away from that belief during that whole super pop phase of the Achtung Babies and Pops and all those, and then kind of have gone back to, my gosh, I think they might be super pretentious. But yeah, their discography though, top notch. Whitney Houston with Didn't We Almost Have It All. Chris de Burgh with Lady in Red. What a how do I put this? Adult contemporary. Like, I mean, that's really the only thing that you could say about it. I mean, it just felt like such a milquetoast song. Ended up at number 3 on the main charts, number 2, adult contemporary. Never one I really liked. Billy Idol's cover of Money Money. Oh, okay. I will admit, I think I have listened to number 18 so many times. So as much as I might have been wanting to listen to It's So Easy by Guns N' Roses, I was definitely listening to I Think We're Alone Now by Tiffany. Super crush. And I feel like when people talk about, they talk about you could be the Beatles or the Stones, right? It was like Tiffany or Debbie Gibson. I was Tiffany. I have no qualms about saying that. I was 13, she was 16, and I was like, whoo, Tiffany, it's my girl right there. Yeah. Debbie Gibson was just too sweet. And Tiffany seemed like she was probably into the rock and roll music that I was listening to. Lisa and Cult Jam here again with Head to Toe, followed by Jody Watley, Looking for a New Love. Jody Watley, I can't help it. I always just remember those massive earrings that she wore. And then once again, you have U2 with or Without You, which is admittedly one of my favorite U2 songs now. In hindsight, at the time, really wasn't feeling it. Atlantic Starr with Always. What a syrupy, sweet ballad. So let's just go through here. We're going to do like basically this top 15. So I said number 15, U2 with Without You. Atlantic Starr, Always. Crowded House, I think with their top charting hit here in the States with Don't Dream It's Over. It is a killer song. It is absolutely perfect. Love it. And yeah, I'm just going to say it again. Listen to Crowded House. There's a couple of songs that I can't access right now in my brain as far as like deeper cuts from that album that are so good. I remember a friend of mine who just absolutely said they were the best band ever. I don't agree with that assessment, but it's certainly a deep enough catalog and they're very, very good. And Neil Finn is one of, because you can't replace Lindsey Buckingham, just one person. He is one of 2 people who are filling that role with Fleetwood Mac now. We have Wang Chung, with Everybody Have Fun Tonight, followed by Los Lobos in their cover of La Bamba. And now, here we are in the top 10. And number 10, I'm surprised it's this low, but Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. Because some of the songs that are on here above it, I know are not played on the radio anywhere near as much as Living on a Prayer. Now, mind you, this was their first big breakthrough record with Slippery When Wet. I mean, what was the record before that? It had songs like In and Out of Love and stuff like that. He had a minor, maybe top 40 hit with Runaway with the debut record, but Living on a Prayer is like an American anthem. I mean, it really is. Everyone knows it, every word of it. And everyone just tries to destroy their voice on the chorus. Of course, John Bon Jovi did in fact destroy his voice in part because of that chorus. But yeah, I mean, timeless, absolutely timeless. Which is why, now I remember now. Okay. I couldn't remember why this was so high because I just couldn't wrap my head around Bob Seger having a top 10 Billboard song in 1988. But that's because Shakedown is from the Beverly Hills Cop 2 soundtrack, which is just as much a matter of Eddie Murphy being a huge star. But that song doesn't really stick with me. Number 8, another song that is timeless. Still surprised it outsold or held longer than Living on a Prayer is The Way It Is by Bruce Hornsby on the Range, of course, sampled later on by Tupac. A song that will forever be etched in my heart, both on a good note and a bad note, because it was our seventh grade. Was it seventh grade? Yeah, seventh grade talent show. And we performed Here I Go Again by Whitesnake. You know that big, huge note that Mr. David Coverdale hits? Yeah, 13-year-old me, not so much. But that is a timeless song as well. It is so good. And yeah, if it comes on the radio, I can't help it. I'm turning that sucker up. Which is why I'm so surprised to see at number 6, C'est La Vie by one Mr. Robbie Neville. I don't think he had any other hits. I remember one other song maybe from this record and gone after that. But hey, C'est La Vie. That's just the way it goes sometimes. We have Starship, Nothing Gonna Stop Us Now. I can't deny its staying power. It is that, you go from Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, and then just Starship. The purely kind of like Mickey Thomas, Grace Slick, like that era of kind of pop rock, but big, huge choruses with fantastic harmonies. You really can't go wrong. Is it corny? Sure. But Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. I can still hear that on the radio today. Probably my favorite Whitney Houston song is number 4. Oh, my dog is barking very loudly. Hopefully the microphone doesn't pick it up. I Want to Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me by Whitney Houston, but full confession, oddly enough, my favorite, there's an old saying that says, whatever you want to do when you're on a talent show, you don't cover Whitney, right? Because it's impossible. So of all people, someone who is not considered a singer, David Byrne of the Talking Heads has this fantastic, particularly the live version, cover of I Want to Dance with Somebody that is so, so good. Number 3, Gregory Abbott with Shake You Down. Why can I not, I cannot recall this song. So I'm going to have to listen to this later on because composition. According to Billboard, the song is about sex. So that is the deep analysis that is available over on Wikipedia. And now, number 2, powerful song. A lot of people try to cover it, and I will maintain that performing this song on American Idol is what catapulted Carrie Underwood to the career that she has today. Number 2 is Alone by Heart. Powerful song. And I know some people like to shit on that era of Heart. Like, where's the, Barracuda, Magic Man, rockin' old Heart. Now, Alone is a killer song. And, it's so good. And then number 1, it is a novelty song by a band that was very much a rock band, a working rock band, a pop rock band. But here they are, number 1 for the entire year of 1987. The Bangles with Walk Like an Egyptian. I mean, cheesy and corny, yes, all of it, but everyone was doing that stupid King Tut dance. It's like everyone was a bunch of little Steve Martins in middle school, and it hit huge constantly on the radio. So, I mean, it's a pretty great lineup. Some weird little stuff in between here and there, a couple of one-hit wonders, as there usually are, but a lot of really major artists and some who were just kind of blooming at this time. Most notably, I think it's got to be Bon Jovi really starting to hit their stride, George Michael hitting his stride, the couple of, the quote-unquote girl pop artists and Debbie Gibson and Tiffany, which is probably kind of, they just kind of like exploded and then kind of retracted. But some of those artists I just mentioned that were up and coming were sharing the charts with your Madonnas, your Princes. Janet Jackson was certainly ascendant at this point as well. Yeah, 87. Kind of a cool year for music. Kind of dig it. Some songs there that are definitely, as I like to say, I'm not the only one who says it, but evergreen songs. And there's a lot of them in 1987. So now let's hop over to the top rated TV shows. Now, if you listen to last week's episode, which there were not that many people who listened to last week's episode in comparison to other episodes, I did talk briefly about 1984. And one of the things that I found surprising when I looked at 87, and I said, holy cow, that's right. Some of the shows that were top of the charts were shows that ran for like 10 years while always consistently being in the very top. So this is always a top 30 when they do the major Nielsen stuff, right? So I didn't even remember this show. So at number 30, Aaron's Way, which was starring Merlin Olsen, who you might remember. Of course, he was a football player and announcer. Then he was also on Little House on the Prairie. A husband and father of an Amish family moves to California. I don't remember this, yet it was a top 30 show for NBC in 1987. Hunter. I loved Hunter. So starring Fred Dreyer, Stephanie Kramer, cop show, procedural, got pretty dark from time to time. I think there was like a recurring like serial killer or just multiple like brutal murders, but I really enjoyed Hunter. And then he ended up doing like reunion movies and one-offs of just a particular case. You do a 2-hour movie. So I don't know. It was kind of a cool show. Day by Day. Is that with, no, none of the people that I thought it was. Listen to this. It stars Douglas Sheehan. Don't really know him. Linda Kelsey? She's on Lou Grant, so her peak was before me. But Christopher Daniel Barnes, oh my gosh, that's right. He played Greg Brady in the Brady Bunch movies of the 90s. But it's Christopher Daniel Barnes, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Courtney Thorne-Smith. So, I just mentioned Christopher Daniel Barnes was Brady movie, right? Julia Louis-Dreyfus, of course, Seinfeld, Veep, like so many things. She's Marvel, everything. Courtney Thorne-Smith, most known for Melrose Place, I think, before destroying her career by starring in a movie with Pauly Shore. And then Thora Birch, who I think is most known for like her kid roles in like Hocus Pocus and stuff like that. Yeah, Day by Day. Don't remember at all. Number 27 was 227. So this was, of course, starring Marla Gibbs and Jack Hay. Huge hit. The NBC Monday Night Movie, which had multiple spots on the charts. I'd have to go through and see what the different ones were, but it seems like, there was a CBS Sunday Night Movie, NBC Sunday Night Movie. It looks like, the NBC ones have a couple on here. Newhart. This is the, my name's Larry. My brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl. That era of Newhart, Peter Scolari, Bob Newhart, Tom Poston, great show. I just have such a fondness, and I think many do, for Bob Newhart's style of humor. There's nothing like it. So deadpan. I loved that show. Head of the Class, starring a man who is in the news for all the wrong reasons, by the name of Dan Schneider. You'd have to go look that up yourself if you're unaware. But Head of the Class, that was what? Howard Hessman? I think he got replaced there, right? Billy Connolly came on board. Yep. He came in as Billy McGregor, replacing Charlie Moore. Howard Hessman, who was, of course, Dr. Johnny Fever, WKRP in Cincinnati. Dallas has fallen far from the 1984 top spot, down here at number 22. Number 20, you have Valerie's Family. So remember, it's crazy, but Valerie Harper left her own show. She was fired from her own show. And then Sandy Duncan, who's most, I think, best known for playing Peter Pan on stage, came in. And it was then like the Hogans, and then it was the Hogan family. But of course, this is the starting point for one Jason Bateman. Of course, he had been on like Silver Spoons and other like smaller roles, but he became the star of the show. My two dads, Paul Reiser and Greg Evigan. Greg Evigan of BJ and the Bear fame in a sitcom, along with Stacey Keenan, as two guys who were both named as potential dads, and they decided to co-parent. In the Heat of the Night, at number 18, that was with Carol O'Connor and Howard Rollins. Dark detective show. My grandparents really liked it. I mean, obviously, so many of us think of, Archie Bunker, but this was a big hit for a number of years. The CBS Sunday Night Movie. Family Ties used to be top 10 down here at number 17 on NBC. We're so used to seeing Monday Night Football at number 1, but back then it was number 16. Have to go back and look and see what games were played in 1987. Amen. So this is with Sherman Hemsley, his second major sitcom that ran for, 5-6 years, something like that? Pretty big hit. Matlock, the recurring joke on The Simpsons and Grandpa Simpson, "It's time for Matlock!" But that was, of course, with Andy Griffith in his role as a lawyer. Again, there's kind of interesting different roles that you expect from, sitcom stars like Andy Griffith. LA Law. I mean, this was too much of a list to kind of go over, but like a lot of people like guest starred on there, early parts of their careers. Everyone from, Don Cheadle was on there, Kathy Bates, David Schwimmer, Bryan Cranston, CCH Pounder, Spacey, Kevin, that is, Richard Schiff, Carrie-Anne Moss, Christian Slater, Lucy. I mean, it's crazy, with your main cast being what? Corbin Burnson, right? Was it Corbin Burnson? Yeah. Harry Hamlin, of course, from Clash of the Titans. You had, what was her name from the Susan Day, of course, from the Partridge Family. Blair Underwood, Jimmy Smits. I mean, crazy. Never watched a single episode of it my entire life. Maybe one. Moonlighting, I mentioned before. So this is, Bruce has got a major chart hit, and he's still got Moonlighting. I don't recall. I know the latter stages, like he and Sybil Shepherd were like almost not ever on set together, but loved Moonlighting. Wonder Years in the top 10. Fred Savage, Dan Lauria, Allie Mills, Olivia Dabo. Oh, Olivia Dabo. Jason Hervey, Danica McKellar, and Josh Shaviano, who is in fact not Marilyn Manson, contrary to what the internet says. Alf, I don't think there's any explanation here. We all know about Alf. He likes to eat cats. He is from the planet Melmac? Is that where he's from? Yeah, Melmac. What a stupid thing to remember. His real name, Gordon Shumway. Murder, She Wrote, I mentioned that. Love it. Love it. Angela Lansbury rules. 60 Minutes again here in the top 10. Night Court. Harry Anderson. May he rest in peace. And I believe Richard Mall passed away as well, right? Yeah, in 2023. 80 years old. Holy cow. At 6'8", which could not have been easy. John Larroquette. Oh my gosh. Marky Post has passed away too. Man, that's a lot of people from the original cast that are gone. Charles Robinson passed away too in 2021. Man. All right. Well, Night Court, I guess it got a little bit of a reboot. I don't know how far that went, but that was a fun show to watch in repeats. I think it was played like late at night, or I don't know. I used to catch it at a weird time. Who's the Boss? Of course, that's in the top 10. Tony Danza, Judith Light, Alyssa Milano, Danny Pintara, Katherine Hellman. Great theme song. It was on my theme song episode. Love it. Growing Pains, I mentioned before, we're Jason and Maggie. They're Jason and Maggie. Alan Thicke, who's also gone too soon. Joanna Kearns, Kirk Cameron, Tracy Gold, Jeremy Miller, Ashley Johnson, and of course, later seasons, Leonardo DiCaprio. The Golden Girls, that was a racy show. What a racy show. I did not get all the humor until I got into my teens because, let's see, it started in 85. I was like 11. My grandparents loved that show because, like, they were the demographic. And there were times that some of those jokes were, boy. Especially all the stuff with Blanche Devereaux. Cheers, which was just a juggernaut for a long time. Like 11, 12 seasons, something like that. It was nominated for Outstanding Comedy Series for all 11 of its seasons on the air, earning 28 Primetime Emmy Awards from a record of 117 nominations. I mean, Ted Danson, Shelley Long, into Kirstie Alley, Woody Harrelson, John Ratzenberger, Kelsey Grammer, Bibby Newworth. That one, just amazing. Rhea Perlman. And then, so I think all those shows, let's see, what time slot was this in? I feel like the Golden Girls was on a weird night. Because I know that the top 3 shows here. Oh, Night Court was on after that. So number 2 was A Different World, which is, of course, a spinoff of number 1, The Cosby Show. So that's where it was the Thursday night slot of the NBC sitcoms that ruled the world. And this continued straight through from this period on. And as the other shows kind of fell out of favor, you brought on Friends. They brought on Seinfeld. Like, it was just this unbroken streak. And of course, Cheers kept chugging along as well. Yeah, I mean, NBC sitcom, that was their bread and butter. But yeah, Cosby Show ruled the world and had a spinoff. How long did A Different World run? 6 seasons. And of course, it really stopped being a story about Lisa Bonet. It became about Whitley, Jasmine Guy, and Dwayne Wayne, Kadeem Hardison. I mean, that became the basis of the show. But yeah, Sinbad was on there. Marissa Tomei. I forgot Marissa Tomei was on there. Holy cow. Yeah, I mean, Cree Summer, huge hits. So yeah, that NBC Thursday night block, that was appointment viewing. And yeah, I loved all of that. So that is the music charts and the top of the TV Nielsen ratings for 1987. Like I said, kind of a back to basics, back to the bread and butter of what this show is, which is just doing a dive into nostalgic Gen X stuff, things from our childhood, things from our teens, things from our young adulthood. And there we have it. So tell me, what did you think? And I'll keep a close eye on, kind of how this episode does to find out really what hits. I've been trying to find that out. What is the kind of the happy place? And I'd love your feedback. So how can you do that? You can email me at stuckinthe.middlepod@yahoo.com. You can find me on Instagram, X, and YouTube at StuckPodX. Head on over to the Facebook page, Stuck in the Middle, a Gen X podcast. Please like, comment, share, leave 5-star reviews, and most importantly, please subscribe to the podcast. So until next time, later, slackers.